I was a Navy brat. I moved here in the 3rd grade. I'm 45 now. Got my card when I was 16. I needed an album of sound effects. And the first book I think I checked out was Stranger in a Strange Land. I was a UT student in the 80s. When I returned to school to go to Pellissippi a few years ago, I would come here to do my research for speeches. When I did public speaking, I would always let people know, call your library, or call the library in the town where the incident or whatever you're researching occurred. That way you cover all bases and you might learn new things that you never would have dreamed of. I went through 4 months of unemployment and it was the worst time in my life, and I didn't have a computer. So I came here several times a week to use the computer, apply for jobs, just do searches. Also, while I was here, I would look at magazines. The library has an odd assortment of magazines, and I discovered Bird Talk. I have birds, and that was a good find. I would always try to read an article out of a magazine I'd never heard of before, so I was reading American Bungalow and different things about art. But I also developed relationships with people that worked here, like the security guard, whatever. They'd always ask how you were doing. They knew why I was here. But I considered this my office. I kept office hours here, and it gave me a good, positive place to be during a hard time. The library is very involved with the Jazz Festival. They have movies on the square. They have the Children's Imagination Library. They also have events on World's Fair Park with children's book. Friends of the Library, I found a cheap book on the history of opera that explains all operas, which was just a neat connection. That you can get music and movies either for free or cheap to borrow. Again, there's an interesting selection of magazines. The community reads. I love that. I'm not reading the present one, but I read Grapes of Wrath. It was always a book on my shelf of shame, had not read. I loved it. It really, really moved me. And just participating in things like that, I really get a sense of community from my library system. Especially for young children and families, there is just a wealth of opportunities here. And I really don't think the public is as aware as it could be of all the opportunities here. The library even offers classes on Excel, Microsoft Office, genealogy classes, and using the internet. I used it to print my resume, update my resume. I felt I wanted to work at UT, and I applied while I was having office hours here in the library. They post jobs on the wall. That's another cool thing about the library, are bulletin boards and public spaces where you can find guidebooks for senior citizens, which I needed, information about upcoming charitable events or just events on humanity. I think that in itself is very good. I love the tie-in with this year's community read with the YWCA and the domestic violence awareness issue for October. But yeah, people here, they play games. They do the social networking. It's a great way to keep in touch. It may be your only way to keep in touch with the outside world. When I was a paralegal, and actually before that, when I was an office manager for a company that did mechanical services, I always thought the libraries, actually Knoxville's hidden gems, were the reference department. General reference and business reference. I used it a lot to find foreign companies and distributors, and then when I became a paralegal, I used it a lot to research charities that we had a client involved in. We had a client one time who was so bad the library's clipping service had a big file on him. I was shocked when they handed that to me. I had a murder case. I asked the librarian, "Do you have anything on James Loveday?" She looked at me confused. I said, "Killed for $1 in his watch." "Oh yes, here you go. UT football players in crime," and this was several years ago. I had to research that. They had a huge file on that. This saved me so much time, and it made me look good that I could return to work. It was like, here you go. The library made me look good and provided valuable information quickly. Even with the heyday of the internet, I will still call the library because they have databases I don't know about, and they do things quicker than I can do. I really appreciate their having all these references on the library's web page to find award-winning books for children, adults, fiction, nonfiction. things like that. I think those are, even e-reads. You can get books from the library's website, and that's amazing. I believe libraries do build a community within its walls and without it. The library is more than just the main facility and its branches. There are a lot of community events, a lot of music, film, book opportunities to buy good books at low prices. Local history, also a big part of our community, which is really rich in history. And that's celebrated here. Debra Dylan, and I've lived in Knoxville since 1973. I was an English major, graduated with a bachelor's from UT in 1987, and I got an associate's degree in paralegal studies in 2000. Right now I'm an administrative assistant at UT.